In the last part of this lecture, we'll be looking at some more details as well as other non-conventional doors. A door frame is what we call the frame that fixes the door to the wall. Okay, so this frame here, it consists of two vertical sides, which is called the post. Sometimes we call it a door jamb also. Okay, the vertical post is the door jamb, and the horizontal piece here is the head. This entire thing is the door frame. Okay, so if you look at this 3D section here, the red one is the frame. We have the door leaf. So the frame will connect the door to the wall. Okay, remember previously what I explained about plastering is to smoothen the wall, and then you can put the paint outside. So the door frame typical sizes is about 100 to 75. Okay, now sometimes we will cut a rebate here. Okay, from this is a rebate. This is also a rebate. This is so that you can hold the door. When the door closes, there is this rebate here to allow the door to close. Okay, so the door frame can be in various shapes and sizes depending on the detailing. And this is the part where we'll be asking you to try the in-class activity on how you can design a door jamb in order to achieve a certain design effect that you want, right? Now if we move on, this is showing the construction of the frame. Again, the main words is the head here, okay, and the post here. The whole thing is the frame. And this one, it also uses the mortise and tenon joint, your thumb drive joint, so-called, so that you have a rigid joint here to hold the frame. Okay, so a mortise and tenon, you always have a recess here in order to receive this protruded portion called the tenon. Okay, so remember the joint that is used here. A threshold here means it's always this level drop between outside and inside. Usually we have the threshold at an exterior door because of water seepage. Okay, so this is the rebate again. Take note of the rebate. You need to understand what the rebate is, so when you do the activity, it's easier. Sometimes, right after the frame, remember just now we talked about the wall, then the frame, then the door itself, right? Sometimes we'll add this thing called an architrave. Okay, it's a molding to finish the detail neatly. Meaning, imagine if you have the wall, the frame, and the door. Sometimes, if the connection is not done properly due to poor workmanship, you might see some gaps here. Okay, imagine this gap goes around, right? This is a section. This gap can go around the door. And if the gap is uneven, it's very unsightly. So some architects or designers, they actually choose to have an architrave in order to cover this joint. Okay, this is an image of an architrave. This is an architrave is a separate piece, this molding here. So they will glue it on top. To zoom in further, the frame is here. This is a door leaf. This is the architrave. Okay, even in modern doors, you have this very clean finish. You might not want the timber molding kind of design, so you have a simple design here. This is the architrave. All right. On the opposite hand, sometimes you might not want an architrave, but you want to control the gap here. Remember just now I mentioned, if you don't have an architrave and this is not connected properly, you have an unsightly gap around. So how we detail sometimes is we will intentionally create a recess here. The thing is, if you specify for 5 mm recess, this 5 mm is going to stay put the entire door here. Okay, if you specify 5 mm gap. So it's intentional. This 5 mm, usually we will specify with an aluminum plate, any kind of metal plate. So it looks very sleek, it's a metal finish. So as opposed to this one, which has an architrave, the other solution, there is no architrave. Okay, and this is the effect that you will achieve. You have a flush door effect. You don't want an architrave. You are free to choose the detail that you want architrave or no architrave. Okay. Now, we are finishing this lecture. This is about non-conventional doors. Sometimes a door is not like this. There are other types. So in other examples, I mentioned in part 1 of the lecture that doors usually come in timber. Of course, there are other forms like metal doors. So sometimes it can be a timber door, but on the outside, we will clad different materials because we want certain finish to evoke certain emotions. Like this door, it looks very heavy, but it also looks very polished because of this stainless steel cladding here. So whatever emotions or texture that as a designer you want to evoke to the user, you can choose the kind of cladding that you want. A cladding means an external piece that you add on to the main core. So the main core is, for example, a metal door here, right? And then, or a timber door, but I want a metal polish finish. So I will clad the stainless steel panels here. Okay. So this is a pivoted door. And then this one in the previous lecture, we also learned that it can be pivoted for those very heavy doors. Okay, it's similar to a top hung window where you just flip open this way. This is very huge. I suspect it's mechanically supported. Okay, so doors is not a typical swing door. There are many types of other kinds of doors. In a louvered door, we use it most of the time to shield the sun. So louvered doors can be sliding. It can also fold up this way, like this image here. So louvered doors, in a way, it will still bring in daylight, but at the same time, it can help to shield the glare effect as well. And a timber flush door, this flush door, you can see that there is no architrave. Remember we studied about architrave. It's flush with this frame here, so you have a flat finish. Okay, so really it depends. If you really want a clean finish, you need to learn how to detail this, right? So that you can draw the drawings and then give it to the contractor. Similar for the louvered doors and whatever forms that you want. So you need to understand the basic construction principles of the door frame, your jamb, your rebates, and your door leaf before you can know how to draw such a detail. Sliding and folding are many forms. This is similar to the bifold that we learned. It's also a form of paneled door, but it has timber strips. Sometimes we use aluminium strips because aluminium is lightweight, it's metal, it has very good weather resistance. Other times, designers use timber, maybe because of the material, the emotions that they want to evoke. Okay, so in this case, it can fold and slide. This is a timber sliding door in pin finish. So typically a door has a solid core door has laminates, right? Sometimes it has we call this a veneer finish. Other times it's painted. It's very simple. It's a low cost kind of door. And then when you slide open, you can also know how to detail such a way to hide your tracks or even to expose your tracks. Okay, it all comes from the designer. And now we come to the end. As a summary, I hope you have understood and is able to describe the functions of the door. This is a checklist, a rough checklist for what you have learned. The materials, I remember I mentioned it can be timber, it can be steel. I'm talking about the core material of the door. The construction components of a door leaf. Look back to the lecture if you can't remember. Okay, different mechanisms, the bifold, the sliding, what have you learned? The typical design layouts, I showed you 4 typical layouts. Of course, it's not exhaustive. There are many other types, but the 4 typical ones. So think about which type you can adopt for your project. And lastly, on door frame to wall details, I talked about the jamb part of the frame, the door leaf, the rebates. Okay, learn how to draw that and how to draw a typical section of the door. Now, this is not the end. In order to finish your lecture, please log on to Socrative and complete a 10 questions online quiz. Complete it before you come for lecture so that we know how you score, how well you understand, and those part that you don't understand, we can touch on it more during the lecture. And when you come for lecture, there's no more lectures per se. We are going to do a class activity together. So see you then.